Welcome to the modern era. It's a silly place, isn't it? Where I'm having a beer with myself while recording myself, talking about myself having a beer with myself. And I'm going to upload it to a place where people might actually watch it. So I suppose I should add some commentary of some value to somebody somewhere. Let's talk today about teachers and how great they are. I've been fortunate to have some good teachers, and I'm fortunate to have a lot of terrible teachers. Now, why am I talking about teachers? Well, if anybody's familiar with my website, which this is a podcast vlog for, www.fractaljournal.com, on there, in the books section, it's a WordPress site, blah, blah, you can find something called Forever Fluid, The Strange Case of Renewable Limits. It's a book about the water issue. And that's an issue I rediscovered by reading Edward O. Wilson's book, Consilience. But that issue was first brought to my attention during, I forget if it was my senior or my junior year of high school, by an earth science teacher, who I'm just going to call Dr. Walter. Because I'm not going to use a person's real name without their permission. That's just the way I roll. I'm big on privacy, even though there's like absolutely no chance of anybody connecting us. Whatever. Now, he introduced me to the topic of the water issue as a big environmentalist sort, and while we had some disagreements, because I'm kind of leaning more towards the Michael Crichton perspective on a lot of issues, I am still environmentally minded just because I've always enjoyed hiking out in the woods. I've always been sort of an outdoorsman. I spent the first part of my life in a big metropolitan city, Moscow, and then when I came to the States, I lived in a lot of really rural areas. But the thing of it is that he was talking about how it's going to become an issue, and I've seen it unfold as an issue. I think Vice did a documentary about the water issue in India, etc. And also, it was re-echoed when I read Edward O. Wilson's book, Consilience. But one other thing that this teacher did was provide us with a sort of passion for looking at things, for looking at our society and being like, hey, it is the way that we run our cities the best way possible, So one project he had us do was try to come up with a scheme for a city that would be different in terms of transportation or something. I came up with something Venice-like, I think, like canals. I did some nuances I don't remember. It wasn't particularly creative. I wasn't proud of it, but at least it got me thinking. And that idea has always stuck in my head of little changes that we can make. And I think it's an idea that needs to be repeated. And we need to get more and more people involved in it. Hold on. Deuce. Yes, I'm sorry about that. As I was saying, we need to get more and more people involved in it. Not even necessarily in actually affecting changes, but in just thinking about them, so eventually there will be a larger pool of ideas to draw from. For instance, there's kind of like plans, I think, in California and other places for cities that are more porous. One of the big things with cities is they block water from acting in a natural way when it falls as rain. So it goes over the surface and washes into areas, and there's erosion, all kinds of other problems. So there's one angle. But yeah, it's just going to take people from various disciplines looking at the problem from, various angles. One thing that was really neat recently that happened was some people called our house and said, hey, we'll buy you a steak dinner if you come listen to our presentation. I was super skeptical, but I'm a sucker for free steak, so I went. What it turned out to be was a company called Yellow Blue, and what they do is they have this material, which they put into your attic, wherever you have insulation. And what it does is blocks 97% of hot or cold air from escaping from your house. It's copper on one side and I believe aluminum on the other side with some kind of like polymer-like matrix in the middle. And during the presentation, what happened was there were heat lamps, and it showed the conventional kind of that pink, fluffy fiberglass Pink Panther stuff being heated up. And that retained a lot of heat, and the heat in fact increased, and after the heat source was gone, the heat stayed there. With this, the heat didn't go up more than like 0.2 degrees, and when the light source was off, it, well, stayed low. So, a lot of power that's used electricity-wise comes from the loss in heating and cooling your home. And a product like this, which blocks out 97% versus the 10% of the conventional pink fiberglass stuff, according to the U.S. Department of Energy, yeah, that's a great way to not only save you money, but it's better for the environment. And I think it's these little changes, this little bit of NASA technology, actually, that's going to help our large populations live in the opulent style that we've become accustomed to. I don't want to say opulent because, and the environmentalist said there's too much anti-human things, but it is a resource use heavy lifestyle, and we need to figure out ways to do it more intelligently because it's going to cause more and more issues as time goes on. Places like India and China, etc., are case studies in what can happen, you know, when there's a lot of people and not enough resources. That's why I'm reading all the books and why I'm trying to figure out what exactly is all going on with it, what water's role, how important and central it is in our life, and all of its various permutations from its molecular structure to everything. It's a really fascinating topic. And I really want to credit that teacher because, sure, there was that whole consilience book that I read, but if it had not been for that teacher, I don't think I would have put the two things together in such a way, because it was kind of like a memory of him taking us to the creek out behind the school, and he had a very nice spirit, and he transmitted some of that passion to me. And, yeah, you know, I'm not conservative, but I'm fairly kind of in the middle, perhaps leaning a little bit to the right. So a lot of people won't be surprised that I have a very strong environmental bent, but I do. And part of that is thanks to the teacher. So thank you, Dr. Walter. And I hope that everybody's found this informative. I'm not at all, you know, like working for this company or whatever. I'm just using the product, and I think it's a good all-around thing that relates to the topic I'm talking about, of small changes and care and passion being important and vital. So, thanks for listening to another TFJ vlog. I'm Alex Weir. Visit my website www.fractaljournal.com for stories, webcomics, and more. And have a great time wherever time finds you. Goodbye.